Welcome to the October 27th, 2025 meeting of the Finance Committee of the Village of Lake Bluff Board. Clerk, will you call the meeting to order and roll call, please?
Meeting's called to order, and I'm going to call the roll here. Member Fisher?
Here.
Member Renner?
Here.
And Chair Ryder?
Here.
Everyone is here.
The first order of business we'll take is the approval of minutes. If we can take a minute to look at the minutes of the meeting from August 25th, because it's been 2 months since we had our last Finance Committee meeting. Does anyone have any corrections? Maybe hard for you to say, Mr. Renner, but anyone have any questions or corrections to the minutes for the August 25th meeting? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the August 25th meeting as written?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. The Finance Committee allocates 15 minutes at this time for those individuals who would like the opportunity to address the committee on any matter not listed on the agenda. And one item that may or may not be listed on the agenda is the interest of the library board in talking to us. And so without objection, I'd like to take them first in this discussion.
You can do that, or you can take up the issue of the levy conversation.
We'll take up the issue of the levy conversation as a whole.
Yes.
And then do the auditor. Okay. All right, time out. We'll go to the levy.
Do we want to first close out the non-agenda items, or do we?
Oh, if there are any non-agenda items,
yeah.
I'm so sorry. Yes. Okay.
There's nobody participating through the Zoom meeting, so.
Okay. Then, hearing none, we will address the library's presentation of information when we address the levy, and we'll take item 4B then first. Bettina, if you'd like to get us started.
Sure. So included in your packet was the 2025 property tax levy estimate, which is based on the 2.9% CPI increase and new construction added to the tax rolls with the estimated EAV that we received from the county, which was 769, 618, 884. Last year's, for point of reference, was 673, 069, 252. That's an estimate, and we usually get the final number later. I would expect that number to go down a little bit based on some of the information that we've received from the county. But overall, the request for the levy number would remain the same. It would just be allocated out differently. So included in the packet was attachment A, which reviewed the summary of the levy with CPI and without CPI. With CPI, the village portion of the levy is $4,183,457, and the library portion of the levy, $1,246,677, for a total of $5,430,134. The no CPI portion estimate is calculated. We've always done that every year, just to give an example of what it would look like without CPI, but that does include the additional EAV. So, does anyone have any questions about the calculation or history behind what was provided?
One observation that I had is that, as many property owners will know, the EAV has gone up substantially this year. Nonetheless, with our levy, the average, as reflected on page 8 of the PDF that was included in the packets, the average homeowner will see a reduction if the EAV stays at the same number it is.
Right.
It's not as significant, but it is interesting to note that both our rate will go down, that is the tax rate for the village portion of the tax bill, and then also the actual tax amount. So for those of you who opened your valuations lately, you'll be glad to, perhaps glad to know that that we are nonetheless going to have some relief here in sight. The other thing I would comment on is our certainty that we have very large expenditures in our near future. It is not a matter of being able to hope for the best and think perhaps we could get by on a tight budget. But we know that the big dig is imminent or even begun. And no matter how much funding we get from other sources, we're going to have multiples of millions of dollars that need to be expended on that. And so with that in mind, I would offer that we should take the limit that would be imposed by PTEL, were it applicable to us, as a village. I know that does not include the library's portion of it, and we can talk about that in a minute, but that would be my proposal. On page 8, our extension would then be, it looks like $5,430,134, correct? Does anyone have any questions or concerns about that?
Should we summarize the last couple of years, what the CPI has been compared to this year?
Bettina, I'm sure you can do that better than I can. I'd be estimating, but it's here, I guess, on page 7.
Just for anyone listening.
Sure, so it listed in the memorandum that was included in the packet, this year's 2.9, prior year's 3.4, and the 2 prior years were 5.0. And actually, I think CPI was greater than that, but we're limited at 5.0, so that's what we took. And then prior to that, it was much lower at 1.4.
So that's part of the benefit here for the levy is that we're dealing with the CPI, which is lower, and we've agreed not to exceed the CPI. So that's good.
Right.
That is correct, right. Any further observations before we move to the portion dedicated to the library, or is there anything
that's fine.
more that we need to talk about?
Unless you have questions.
Anyone else have questions regarding the need to adopt the extension that's stated here, the $5.4,330,133? Okay, that takes care of the portion that's the village specifically, as I understand it, that doesn't include the library portion, which we levy for.
The 5.4 includes the estimate that I
Oh,
made for the
okay.
library.
Good.
But you're right, the library can make a different request, so be it, but that's the request that I made, or that's the calculation I made based on CPI.
And to be clear, for anyone, as many people who are listening, in 2006, when we became home rule, the board made a commitment to not exceed PTEL the way that we would have been obligated to do had we not been home rule. For example, our school district is subject to PTEL. And so we held ourselves accountable to staying within PTEL, and we've been able to do that despite some pressures. That resolution, that commitment applied solely to the village, as I understand it, and it was expressly not applicable directly to the library, though the library has tried to come close, I think, over the years. And with that, perhaps we can turn it over to the library folks. Sure. I'm going to state your name for the record and your address. Thank you.
Hi, I am Alexandra Friedman. I am the Lake Bluff Library Board President currently. And for my address, I suppose because we're coming from the outside, I'm not used to being on this side. I live at 54 West Center Ave, Lake Bluff. I have just passed off a quick at-a-glance levy proposal scenario that will accompany tonight, and we promise not to take up too much of your time. However, we wanted to make sure we, in the spirit of transparency and communication, are able to walk through the different scenarios the library has evaluated as we continue to face some pretty significant budgetary challenges, which I know the board has been privy to over the past 18 months to 2 years. I also say we have our treasurer, Bonnie Shaw, here to help answer any questions, should any come up. So what you have in front of you are several scenarios that were evaluated, amongst others, to look at the library's financial picture, especially the needs that are faced with the facility, which, as you know, has significant and sort of longstanding capital needs. We were here last month with our new library director, Natalie Starosta, who is incredibly seasoned and has done an amazing job at stabilizing the organization, especially from a staff culture perspective, services, and brings just a wealth of experience. She has also sung everyone's praises of the village, so Drew and Bettina have gotten many a shout out from Natalie, so thank you for your collaboration on that. And so in our discussions as a board, we are looking at the long-term viability and sustainability for the library. Last month, we were here to share some of the things Natalie's accomplished in the past 6 months, which have been numerous and very impactful. One of the things we want to make sure is still clear and at the board's highest priority is ensuring that the library is financially sustainable, particularly when it comes to the facility for many years to come. This past year, we levied for a 6%, which is a slight increase from previous years. In previous years, there has not been a capital facility reserve. There's been a lot of deferred maintenance at the library, and much of that is coming to pass now. In the past, we've had an emergency roof situation, which the village has supported with as well, but we are looking at HVACs that are well beyond their years, asbestos remediation that is occurring hopefully any day now, as well as things like ancient windows that are losing heat and things that we know cannot be kicked down the road. With all that being said, I wanted to provide some of the scenarios so you can see where we are in terms of making a levy request with the village. In an ideal world, the library would have at least $35,000 baked into its budget to deal with urgent facility needs. In the past, this has looked like a gas leak that has shut the library down for multiple days. Hopefully, knock on wood, this does not include more HVAC emergencies in our near future, but it's highly likely that those will come up in pretty much any moment. So what we are looking at in this sheet in particular is, in our ideal scenario, we would have $35,000 baked into our budget, as well as some money that we could set into a capital reserve, knowing that our facility has extensive needs. We are, however, aware that we don't have our full facility plans and our facility capital assessment complete. Those will be done in the next 30 days. We are very eager, although we have a pretty strong idea of what will be coming back our way, that will provide us with the ability to make a roadmap over the next many years. What are the things that must be addressed this year? What are the estimated costs? And what's going to get us to a place of both financial and facility sustainability? With that in mind, ideally the library would be levying at a high 18-ish%, which would allow us to hit 100% of sort of the best practice target of $35,000 a year of facility needs, plus a significant contribution to capital reserves that has not happened in the past, in the amount of about $90,000 to $95,000. But we do recognize we don't have all our information yet, and we need to have that information in order to make an informed judgment about how we move forward. What that brings us to tonight is making sure that we communicate what we are thinking as the library in our proposal to the village, which is 9.5%. In this scenario, it would get us partially towards $35,000 in our budget. It would be about 70 to 75% of that need being met through a 9.5% levy. It would not allow us to put money aside in a capital reserve, but we would be able to operate in the black with about $19,000 to $25,000 in our facility funds for the year. If we were to continue at a 6% with no capital facility reserve or facility budget, we would still be operating at almost $17,000 over budget. So in thinking strategically and long-term, we want the library to be here for many generations. We also recognize, I like big dig. Also, I haven't heard that before. I like big dig. There are a lot of needs that the village has as well. And so as we continue to get all of our information and triangulate it so we can have a really strong strategic plan, we also want to be realistic about the needs that we are facing coming fiscal year. So this is really in the spirit of transparency. We'd love to answer any questions you have. We also would welcome a deeper discussion in the future, knowing that you all are also evaluating many other financial aspects tonight. Any questions from the board?
I appreciate that there's going to be a facility plan, and you got a facility assessment that'll lead to a roadmap. I know we talked about that. I recall during our discussions of the IGA, we also talked about kind of a wholesale look at the operations, operating model even. Is that part of the plan, or is that to come after the facility plan is done, or what do you anticipate?
Yes, so we have three parts to this. The facility plan is one of them. We also have we're working with a financial advisor who has been a partner of the libraries, who will come up with a financial plan. Those will both feed into a 5-year strategic plan.
I see.
And the 5-year strategic plan will cover things like operating model, staffing, services, and if you are all inclined, on the 4th of November, focus groups from the community to help inform what that looks like, to make sure we're being responsive. One thing I will also name is that these at-a-glance numbers do not include expanding operating hours for the library, which is currently the biggest demand we have, to open on Sundays, to expand operating hours, and this does not accommodate that yet, but that will all go into the 5-year strategic plan.
When do you anticipate having that strategic plan, if not done, substantially complete?
Yes, it is already in process. So at least the information gathering. So we have the community focus groups. The goal is that since that will incorporate both the facility and the finance strategic plan, that would be complete in 2026. I believe we said by fall 2026. However, since they've been able to kick off sort of part one, it may be sooner than that.
I ask those questions because I appreciate that the need is greater than what you're proposing to levy, or request that we levy. And you have built out these at-a-glance scenarios explaining that. However, I think if we're this time next year talking about the operating plan, the strategic plan, that'll be a much more compelling kind of story to tell, even though you already have a compelling story. But if we have a plan in place, and in order to execute on a plan, we need X, I think that'll be a more fulsome discussion.
Yeah, and we agree. I think that's a big part of why we know that 18% at this point in time just is not something that is in the cards. And we want to make sure that we are open and honest about it, while making sure we don't find ourselves in a year from now saying, well, we've actually overextended by this much more. And so that is definitely a well-respected point. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, please. Ali and Bonnie, thank you very much for being here, number one, and responding to the hard questions I sent to your way, Bonnie and Ali. But it were hard at the time, and you guys were faced with a real wall of operating this facility, the library facility. So, number one, thank you very much for being here and having plans, multiple plans, to actually address all these needs. I really appreciate that, because that was a hard query at the time. So the question to you, I actually have a question. The 18% is one thing, 9%, this 9.5% is what you're asking for today. Is this going to satisfy your need? Is this going to be enough for operations and sustaining? And really the question is this going to be enough for any failure in the library, such as HVAC, such as anything else that could come around, such as asbestos? I'm not calling for it, but is this going to be enough?
9.5 is not going to be enough if we have catastrophic failures of some of the main infrastructure. And that's just being realistic. We have, I think, 4 different HVAC systems, all of which are at or over their lifespan. And we have estimates knowing that those would eat deeply into our reserves. We are operating within a reserve around $440,000 for the library. It is not a separate capital facility reserve. That is it in its entirety. And so we have this year, the board approved a budget to dip into that to cover some of the facility expenses. But we know that 9.5 is putting us in a better situation to respond to those. However, we know that if there is a simultaneous and catastrophic alignment of events, that would be very challenging for the library.
Okay.
Yep.
So basically what you're saying is 5% is not enough, 18% is too much, 9% is going to be sustaining this year, and next year, hopefully you have a plan that will basically put you on track and you'll be fine.
The goal is that next year we can come to you with a very full and complete picture of what that strategic plan looks like.
Okay.
I would never say 18% is too much, given that we're looking at years and years of deferred maintenance and many years of the library operating under the assumption they could not have a separate capital reserve, which really has come back, as you know, with the roof situation in a negative way for the library. So I would not categorize it as too much. However, we recognize that we don't have all of the information on paper to hand to you today or to the community, and making sure that our constituents that we are being responsive to their needs and stewards of their dollars. So,
Thank you, Ali.
yes, of course.
Yeah, I think when you get this report, you're going to put together a list of things that you know that you're going to need to do, like you said 5 years?
For a strategic plan, yes.
One of the things to know that in this current environment, because I'm in the construction business, is that when you have to carefully look at escalation, and it's anybody's idea what an HVAC unit will be 3 years from now. But I know it'll be probably 10 to 20% more. So pay careful attention to escalation and consider, whether the levies will have to grow in order to catch up to what those projected costs are.
Absolutely, and we are facing that now. Even we've had an accessibility study done that was based off of 2015 estimates, and we knew, well, obviously, many things have happened in the past 10 years. So that is a point well taken. Thank you, Brian. And as we move forward with the facility plan as well, we would be happy to share that, and we'll plan on sharing that with the village once we see it. And as much as we know the things that will be on that list, what they are also helping us with is what is going to be the most urgent, and we're talking about the red flags versus the yellow flags. We're not talking, there's not a lot
Nice
of
to
green
have,
flags.
not a lot of nice to have.
The nice to have will come maybe in the strategic plan down the line, but we do expect that the facility assessment will be significant. Any other questions? And Bonnie is also here. I'm happy to have her speak to it as a treasurer.
No, again, I'm very happy to see you the two of you being extremely proactive to answering our quandary about 2 years ago. So thank you very much about that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for your partnership. We appreciate it. Please reach out if you have any questions after this.
Thank you.
So just returning for a minute to the levy, would the number that we are then seeking to levy change from what you had proposed? If I can get back to that, that page, we had a $5,430,133. Is that number adequate to cover the 9.5% increase that the library is requesting? Do we need to adjust that?
I would need to adjust it.
Okay. All right. Well, this is not a vote, so we're not voting on anything. This is informational and to get the Finance Committee's input. So I think that that's sufficient. You'll come to us with updated information the next time we talk. Did anyone have any other questions, or Bettina, is there anything that you'd like to add?
Is the difference just roughly $75,000? The difference between,
I don't know what you have.
I think that's it's 74,875. The difference between the levy that's in the estimate
Okay.
is presented, it is the total amount of the 5,430,134
Well, their portion is 1246677. What is
versus
what are they
the
asking?
9.5 is 1321552. So the difference of 74875. To move the estimate.
None of which we're really following, but we will be following.
It brings their total to like 180.
Yeah.
We will be following on the next meeting.
Okay.
Joe, remind me, it's been 10 years. Historically, when we commit to the CPI, which we've done faithfully, as a promise when we changed over from home rule, the library levy is not in that 3.2. It's above and beyond. Just wanted
That's
to-
correct.
Just wanted to see if my memory was still good.
Yep.
Thank you.
The village's pledge is exclusive of other taxing
Right,
bodies, yes.
Thank you.
But we have sufficient direction to bring this back. Thank you.
Okay. A minute for a bite there.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Taking part of your evening to present this information. Not at all. We will now return to item A, back up to the top. Discussion regarding the FY 2025 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report and Auditor Communications to the Board. Do we have a report on that, or we're turning it over to the auditor?
Well, beyond what I included as highlights in the memorandum, I would turn it over to Mark Sikich to review the audit.
Okay.
Good evening.
Me.
I am Martha Trotter. I'm the lead principal on the village's audit engagement, and I am here to present to you the results of the fiscal year 2025 audit. We started our audit procedures with preliminary field work in June. We completed the majority and most substantial amount of our testing towards the end of July. And since then, we have issued the annual comprehensive financial report, the board communication, the management letter as required by Illinois compiled statutes, as well as the IMRF allocation report, which provides for the allocation of the IMRF net pension liability as allocated to the village and library. We are in the process of completing the required comptroller submission that is required to be completed. Actually, the original deadline was as of today. However, because the village does include library information, that report has still not been issued final at this time. The comptroller does provide for an extension through December 27th. So we anticipate that as soon as the library information is available and finalized, that will be submitted, and the village will meet the requirements of the Illinois compiled statutes. The state statutes require the village to have an audit of its financial statements and records by an independent audit firm completed annually. The annual comprehensive financial report includes the village's basic financial statements presented in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles. The village does prepare a full annual comprehensive financial report. It's a large document that has been provided to you to review that is above and beyond what is required by Illinois compiled statutes and meets the additional requirements of the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement Program. Due to these additional requirements, there is an introductory section included within the ACFR, as well as a statistical section that provides a great deal of additional information, and some great sections that I'll highlight are included within these two pieces of the financial statements. The annual comprehensive financial report is submitted to the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement Program annually, and the village did receive the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the previous fiscal year, that is pulled up on the screen for you. What that lets you know is that this report is prepared with the additional expectations and meets the requirements and the qualifications as a distinguished financial report that has a level of transparency and information above and beyond what is expected by state statutes, and that is a distinguished honor, and we like to call this out and also acknowledge the amount of effort the village goes through to prepare this full annual comprehensive financial report and issue on a timely basis to meet the state reporting requirements. The purpose of our audit is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are as a whole are free from material misstatement. Our opinion on the financial statements are located on pages 1 through 3 of the annual comprehensive financial report. The first 2 paragraphs is where you'll find our opinion, and I am pleased to report a clean, unmodified opinion on the village's financial statements for the fiscal year ended April 30th, 2025. That is the highest level of assurance that we can provide with respect to the accuracy and fairness of the presentation of the village's financial position and its conformance with generally accepted accounting principles. Our audit procedures were conducted in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. As to meet these requirements, we do ask for a lot of information from the village and its accountants, and we spend a great deal of time testing and reviewing the information and support that's provided to us, and I want to extend our team's appreciation for the timeliness and responsiveness of the village and its accountants, and the professionalism that was offered to us in order for us to be able to complete our testing without any issues, without any lagging concerns or difficulty in obtaining explanation, and to be able to issue these, to remain on track with the timeline and issue the clean opinion that we were able to do so. There is a section of the financials following the independent auditor's report called the management discussion and analysis. This is following the independent auditor's report on pages MD&A 1 through MD&A 10. If you read nothing else in the ACFR, I do encourage reading the management discussion and analysis. This is prepared by the village's finance department. It provides some additional context to the balances within the basic financial statements, provides for some additional information that is not contained within the financial statements themselves. It has comparative information, so you can see current year audited to previous year's audited balances, some graphical information, as well as a great deal of analysis and discussion of any significant changes or variances over previous years, what drove those changes, as well as comparisons of actual to budget and drivers of any fluctuations from what was budgeted. So if nothing else, I do encourage reading through the management discussion and analysis to gain some context to the financial statements and to give you a bit of a summary of the numbers. The basic financial statements begin with the entity-wide statements on page 4, and that's the statement of net position and the statement of activities following that. Those statements are presented on a full accrual basis of accounting. Governmental activities, so the village's governmental funds, are combined into one column. The village's business type activities or its proprietary funds are combined into the business type activities column. Because these statements are presented on a full accrual basis of accounting, they incorporate the long-term assets and liabilities of the village, such as the net pension liabilities of the IMRF and police pension plan, the other post-employment benefit plan liabilities, the associated deferred outflows and inflows as calculated by actuaries. Those are pretty significant balances related to those liabilities and related items, as well as the capital assets net of accumulated depreciation. So the village's illiquid assets, that the value of its tangible capital assets net of its accumulated depreciation, and any long-term debt associated liabilities. This is an annual one-time-a-year reporting just to meet the mandates of the Illinois compiled statutes. More in line with what you're used to seeing on a monthly basis and basing your financial decisions on, you'll find the governmental fund financial statements beginning on page 8. Correct, page 8 of the PDF. The governmental major funds are presented individually. The village reports the general fund and the capital improvements fund as major. All other governmental funds of the village, are reported as non-major funds, and those are combined into one column. Individual fund level detail of those non-major funds are found later on in the report. However, for basic financial statement reporting purposes, these non-major funds, due to the low level or due to the amount of activity flowing through these individual funds, are considered non-major and reported in total or in aggregate. The general fund and the capital improvements fund, which are major funds, the general fund's unassigned fund balance at April 30th, 2025 was 10.8 million. The unassigned fund balance is the portion of the fund balance that is available to fund subsequent years' expenditures. It is roughly 85% of the general fund's fiscal year expenditures, pretty consistent with previous years. The general fund balance increased 1.8 million before transfers. After transfers made to other funds, the general fund had an increase in its fund balance of 940,000. On page 10, you'll see also the general capital improvements fund had a increase in fund balance of 409,000 after transfers that were made into the fund from other funds to fund capital projects. And non-major funds fund balances also increased 307,000 for the fiscal year. Proprietary fund financial statements, the village's enterprise funds information is located beginning on pages 12 through 15. That's for the village's water fund and stormwater utility fund. So this is presented on a full accrual basis of accounting as well, similar to what is reported at the entity-wide level. However, you'll see the information broken out between the two of the village's enterprise funds here. On page 13, you'll find the operating income for both of the funds. The water fund had an operating income of 255,000, whereas the stormwater utility fund had an increase of 777,000 of its net position operating income over the previous year. And finally, in the basic financial statements, the fiduciary fund statements, the police pension fund information is located beginning on page 16 and 17. A highlight here, the fiduciary fund had an increase in net position of 1.6 million, largely due to the healthy investment earnings for the fiscal year. Following the basic financial statements here, there are footnotes to the financial statements. There was one change in accounting and reporting that was implemented during the fiscal year. There was an implementation of GASB Statement 101 related to how compensated absences are reported. So historically, under the prior GASB pronouncements, compensated absences were long-term accruals associated with benefit time that is paid out upon employee separation. Beginning in fiscal 2025, there was a requirement to also take into consideration any benefit time that, although is not paid out in cash at separation, can be carried into future years and taken by employees. So due to that requirement, to that change, there was an additional estimate calculation performed based on information provided to us by the village and its accountants to determine what percentage of sick time can carry into future years that employees are more than likely to take. There was no restatement required based on the value of the balances. However, there was an increase in the liability overall as compared to what was reported in previous years because of this additional estimate for sick time that is more than likely to be used in the future. So there's some additional footnote disclosures in the long-term debt section related to showing that increase of those compensated absences balances. Those affect the entity-wide governmental activities balances, not the governmental fund financial statements individually. They also do impact the water fund financials, as there are those are reported on a full accrual basis of accounting. In addition to the ACFR, we have, as I noted, also issued the communication to the village board. Within the board communication, this is where we report if there are certain items that are required by auditing standards to communicate to those charged with governance. As I noted, the GASB implementation, any changes to accounting policies and procedures are communicated here. So there was the implementation of GASB that is disclosed within the board communication. If we encounter any difficulties during the audit or any disagreements with management, those would be communicated within this letter. This would not be the first time that those were brought to your attention if there had been any, but as I noted, the village was continuously professional and responsive and provided us with all the information that was needed. We had no issues in performing the audit, so there was nothing to communicate of this nature. Also, if there had been any items that we consider to be deficiencies or anything that rose to the level of a material weakness or a significant deficiency, so any concerns over the internal control processes of the village, those would be communicated here as well as in the management letter that's required by Illinois compiled statutes. We had no such items to report. We disclose subsequent GASB pronouncements, so items that are coming to us from GASB that may impact the village in the future, in future reporting years. That listing of GASB pronouncements is getting a bit lighter, as a lot of the most significant pronouncements have been implemented in the past 3 years. So the upcoming pronouncement effective for the fiscal year 2026 is much less burdensome to the village in its implementation. And then finally, we also have an appendix located within this report on page 12, where you'll find a deficiency that was reported in the previous year related to year-end adjustments and reconciliations, as well as the status on this deficiency. And we have, based on the information that was provided to us and the level of preparedness of the village for the fiscal year 2025 audit, this deficiency has been considered implemented. So our recommendations to the village, there were much fewer adjusting journal entries required, and the reconciliations that were necessary to support the balances were provided to us on a timely basis and complete and accurately. So there was no concern with this deficiency continuing. Any questions on the financial statements, the audit process, any of the additional reports that have been issued?
Not for me. Anyone?
Not too different from the prior year's audit, clean opinion, and the numbers reflect in the fund balance of higher than our policy, but that's purposeful, and like, this is the year, Deep Tunnel Project, Green Bay Road, next 2 years, it's like, this is, the spending has begun. So if you remember in the 5-year capital plan, we showed the fund balance dipping down to just a smidge below 50%. Is that right? Was it like 47, 48? Yeah, and is it 28?
28, yes, has about $5 million in spending and then some transfers in addition to
Yeah, but this is as planned, so.
Thank you, Martha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Staff would be happy to answer any other questions related to the audit. If there aren't any, then staff would look for the Finance Committee to make a recommendation to the board to accept the FY25 audit. Or I should, sorry, not.
So, anyone have any other
ACFR.
questions? Anyone have any questions for Bettina or Drew?
No questions.
Okay,
Can I please say a word?
please.
Thank you, Bettina, and thank you for you and your staff, and to Drew for, as Martha said, complete professionalism, openness, and working with Martha's staff to actually create what you're creating for us year after year. So I'm very appreciative.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Thank you.
So you need a motion to recommend?
Yes, sir.
I so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Recommend to the full board.
And do that later tonight.
Okay, very quick. Okay, item 4C is a discussion regarding the planned acquisition of a fire pumper truck. Is that you, Drew, who's reporting on that, or perhaps you, Bettina?
I can start the conversation. Chief Marsh has been so kind to join us. You can hear it from said chief's mouth, but this is, again, another planned activity. The village has been looking at ways to acquire a replacement truck. I think we had a conversation earlier today, Chair Ryder, about the state of our fleet in the fire department. We still have vehicles in our barn, so to speak, at 1995. It's the oldest vehicle that we're using still. And then there was we purchased some in 06 and 07. And then we have a utility truck that we've had. I'm forgetting the year of that. But the point is, right now in the state of the universe of fire truck production, the village has historically purchased Pierce vehicles. Right now, I know there's a pending lawsuit about the idea that maybe there's some, what's the legal term?
Shady market manipulation.
That is the legal term.
Anyway, the village has been planning to acquire this, and we've been exploring our options, and we wanted to present those to you. Why now? One, because to get in line, they need a PO. They being Pierce. In order to do that, we wanted to make sure you knew what the plan of action looks like and how that may impact our future finances. But again, the village has a sinking fund for this type of activity and has been socking money away and planning for this. And so right now, it seems the most cost-effective acquisition route would be to work through Pierce, the manufacturer, and do a lease purchase. We can start prepaying that purchase immediately with the completion of a PO, and start reducing our interest over the period. I think we had a conversation earlier today with Chair Ryder, Bettina and I, and there was a question about net present value. And Bettina did
Still not calculated it myself.
It's about $80,672.
Over the course of the
Four-year
prepayment? Okay. That answers that question.
Yeah, so, but here's the question, why and what is the fate of the rest of the fleet if this is done as planned? I think the why, and again, Chief, help me out here if I'm wrong, but the village over the years, like a lot of departments, has gone from mostly fire calls to a blend slightly heavier on the EMS side in terms of calls. We do not have the demand and call volume to justify getting the ambulance business. We have elevated our quality of patient care for our visitors and residents to the point where we do advanced life support, but we don't transport. We still have a relationship with Lake Forest to provide that service. So we did talk about for a long time, and we're going to get in the ambulance business, but we just said we have fewer than a call a day. And so it just doesn't make a business sense for us to do it. This apparatus that we're talking about is a joint EMS and pumper truck. So that would be a first responding vehicle for us. So for everything, it'd be the first responding call so that we can take care of our business and do how we foresee the department at least evolving for the foreseeable next 30, 40 years as.
It's the way we run, 30
So
40 years.
we buy and hold. And so even with the oldest pony in the barn, that 1995 truck, we probably hold on to it. The street value of that's like $30,000. It's not a lot.
No, if that, yeah.
So it's more of a value to us to train with and take advantage of that. At some point, we'll get to the point where we have to make a tough decision about do we invest in some maintenance, and we'll probably cut it loose at that point. But right now, we plan to hold on to it. Again, sorry if
Yes.
if I missed anything, please fill in.
No, we might as well hold on to it. It's
Yeah.
gonna be years before this one that we're trying
Yeah.
to get in line with, will be here anyway, so. Gotta get in line sooner or later, so now's the time, we think.
One of the things that I talked to Drew and Bettina about today was getting in line involves starting to pay, which is peculiar, but apparently that's the way it's done, which is why we were talking about present value of the money that we're going to be paying before we step foot in said truck. So both of the proposals that were in front of us were structured that way, where we pay now for something we'll get some time ago, so there wasn't much distinction there. And Bettina's telling me that the present value of the money that we would spend in advance of obtaining the truck is in the order of $80,000 rather than anything more significant than that. The other question I had that I didn't ask you is, there's no bid, right? There's no competitor here, where we can say, we don't like your truck, we'd rather have your truck, I take it. There's one manufacturer of a fire truck, is that right?
Mostly, one of this quality.
I see.
And the quality is important, that's how we get, it's a big part of how we get 35, 40 years out of them. And another part of that is our good maintenance that we perform regularly.
So when we do construction, we have to send something out to bid, but I take it when we purchase something like this, we aren't required to get alternative bidders.
There actually isn't a waiver because we're doing it through a joint procurement. We're getting joint prices, so
I
we're
see.
getting to enjoy a discount, so to speak, based off a national procurement.
Right, it's a Sourcewell contract.
Yes, which we've
It's a
done in the
pardon?
A
past.
Sourcewell contract.
Which is the name of a joint procurement.
I see,
Procurement. So
I
that
see.
means those are the bidded prices, and that's why we
I
can do
see,
that.
I see, okay.
In fairness, there is some customization that occurs in this line of work, which is, it happens, but the reason why this truck is not $2 million is that it is very minimal customization just to meet our needs. I mean, this number can go up dramatically.
Yeah, it can.
So this is, I won't say it's a base model, but it's not too far off.
And yes.
There's no sunroof, is there no sunroof? No sunroof?
Leather interior.
Open roofs are no longer in vogue, and Ocean doesn't like them, because we had one of those.
Oh, we did, oh, well, all
I
right.
remember approving the enclosed fire trucks. So you guys didn't have to be out in the cold.
Yeah, we certainly appreciated that.
I have a question to you, Chief. So we keep our trucks about 30 years, somewhere there, 30 to 40 years, as you said, last one, 2005.
1995.
1995, I'm sorry, yes. And so I'm terrified to ask, okay, which one of, what of a truck will go next? Given that you have a lawsuit and you're trying to reduce those prices and so on, what are we exposed in the future?
Well, that is, it's actually an interesting question, and we've put a lot of thought into what we wanted this new truck to do for us and for the village. We decided that we can use this, make this truck available for all of our EMS first response and our fire first response. That will lighten the load on the other two rigs that we use. One of them is for fire and the other one is for rescue. So that'll lighten the load on both of those, which should extend their lives, actually. And we thought that would make a lot of sense. And so the balance of the equipment for a rescue call will come on the second rig that comes out to us, and the same thing for the fire calls. The balance of the equipment that you need for that would come on the other second rig, depending on the call.
That's a great answer. This is a very enlightening to me. But really, worst case and best case, when next do we have to buy a truck? In the next 10 years? Next 15 years? What do you
Well,
think?
if the lag time stays the
Changes.
same, it's gonna be 4 to 5 years before we get this one. We'll make that decision when the time comes. So if it's still 4 to 5 years out, we would probably start the process anyway at that point and see what the situation requires at that point.
So you bought trucks in 2006 and 8, I believe, was what you said, if you have a trucks?
7, 6, 7.
So the other trucks are basically 18 years, 19 years, somewhere there.
Right,
And so we have
Still no-
another 10 years, 15 years for each of these.
right. Well, I would venture to say that we probably will not need to buy 2 to replace those 2 that are close in age. The way we're moving now, they're gonna be more versatile rather than specific.
Thank you, Greg.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments?
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
So if everybody's comfortable moving forward, we can bring that PO. I'm trying to think if we need, if everybody's comfortable with that, we can bring it to the board at the next board meeting to get direction with a recommendation to move forward with that. Similarly, so
Do we
recommendation.
need a recommendation or a motion?
Yes.
Could I have a motion to recommend this purchase of this fire truck to the full board?
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. We'll recommend this to the full board for the next meeting.
And just to confirm, that's with the Pierce financing options.
That's
Yeah,
what I
number-
heard.
Yes.
the second.
That's why the motion was made. That's what I heard.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any further business?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And then, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.
And I did.
Recording in progress.
Did it start?
Recording stopped.
It's okay. We'll have that one.